Hello, welcome. This is Peter Eisfeld, and I'll be bringing Crow on in a moment. Share Crow, invite Crow. I don't have my headset. Get my headset. Hi, Crow.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yep.
There we
I
go.
could. Hang on. Put my headset on, make sure that works. Okay. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, excellent. And one of these days we'll figure out how to do this with real computers.
Yeah. Oh, well, I decided to give it a shot today after I was done trying to build something in a new CAD program I downloaded. So, piece by piece, you build it up from the ground up.
Yep.
So, what a week. What a week.
What a week.
Mm-hmm. Before we get started, we should start with a prayer.
Okay.
And then we'll jump right in.
Okay.
So, did you want to go, or should I?
I think so. Is it my turn? I think you went last time, right?
Yes, if you want to do it, go right ahead.
Okay. Father, I pray for the residents, council, and reeve of this rural municipality. I pray for the residents, councils, and mayors of the villages in this rural municipality. I pray for the residents, council, and mayor of the capital city of this province. I pray for the MLAs and the premier of this province. I pray for the people of this province. May we discern the truth, and may we have the courage to stand up for what is right. I pray for the MPs and the Prime Minister of Canada. I pray for all the people of Canada. May we discern the truth, and may we have the courage to stand up for what is right. I pray for the Congress, Supreme Court, and President of the United States. I pray also for all the people of the United States. May we discern the truth, and may we have the courage to stand up for what is right. I pray for the leaders of all the countries of the world. And finally, Father, I pray for all the people of this world. May we discern the truth, and may we have the courage to stand up for what is right. Amen.
Amen. So, we all had the biggest laugh this week. With Biden falling down the steps.
Mm-hmm.
That was so hilarious on Friday. Take a wild guess. What was the first thing I noticed about that whole incident?
Let's see if I, full disclosure, I don't think I even saw it.
Okay.
Was it on?
Well,
I didn't see the footage of it.
this is where it would be nice to have screen share.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I watched the clip a couple of times, And then I counted how many seconds it was that he was tripping. He tripped 3 times. And from the first trip to when he got back up was 7 seconds.
I was going to guess number 7 had something to do with it.
And then you watch the clip. There's a guy, a Marine, standing at the very bottom of the steps, like he's supposed to, with 2 Marines on either side. Joe trips once. Okay. He trips twice. And the third one was a doozy. That was a whole 7 seconds. And Buddy, you couldn't see Buddy coming up the stairs to help his president. 7 seconds. And Buddy didn't budge an inch to help his president. You see the footage of Gerald Ford tripping on the airplane steps? There was like 3 people that jumped right on top of it to catch and help him.
Yeah, instantly, I'm guessing.
Instantly, yes. I mean, you couldn't even count off 1 second, and they were there. My guess is a fit young man, which I imagine the Marine is, should have took 3 seconds to get to his president. If Joe was his president. Because that was the first thing I thought of. I was like, wow. Like, these guys aren't even running to help their president. How much do they really give a shit? So, yeah, things that make you wonder what the hell's going on. Well, I mean, during his motorcade parade in Washington, most of the servicemen, military servicemen, turned their backs. Let's not forget that. So, obviously, nothing has changed since Inauguration Day. The servicemen and women do not support Joe at all. So, makes you wonder what's going on in the world. And let's see, tons of arrests this week, judges and priests, Catholic priests, all being arrested for crimes against children. And so that's pretty much all that's going on right now, is that all these pedo rings are being cleaned up. I mean, even Putin came out this week, and he just like basically was like, "Hey, Twitter, you got 30 days to get that pedo shit off your platform." And Twitter's like, "What pedo shit?" And Russia's like, "Really? You really want us to point this shit out?" And, well, Russia is. So that's happening. And just to go show the media is like so full of shit. There's this guy in Russia that the media was supporting. I forget his name. It's a Russian name, Kluskinsky or something like that. And anyways, this guy got locked up. Okay, and the media was like, oh, Putin locked him up because he's saying things about him, and and telling people the truth. Well, the way the media went on about this guy, you'd think that Putin personally was keeping him locked up in prison because of things that he was saying. Well, the justice system in Russia is slightly different from the justice system we have here in the West. So trying to look at their system and wonder, what the hell's going on, and trying to compare it to our system, there's not. There's differences, just like there's differences between Canada and the U.S. Justice system. So their justice system is slightly different. You can get locked up, and they don't necessarily have to charge you and let you go. So it's a Russian system. And then it came out that the real reason why he was locked up, because of kiddie porn and pedophilia. Can you believe that shit? And this was like the media's golden boy for like 2 weeks. I was like, these sick bastards. It's like, wow. So the truth eventually comes out, and you can't trust. And if it's not apparent by now, then I don't know. People need to pull their head out of the sand, because it should be apparent that mainstream media is full of shit, 100%. And whatever truth they do tell you is just, it's going to suit their narrative that they're going to want to pump. I mean, that's all I've been seeing this week. The mainstream media really was pissing me off this week. And it's just so much garbage. And they're like talking about stuff that doesn't matter when real news is happening. Like, I mean, does anybody know that the whole thing, that Georgia had a complete recount and all of it went in favor of Trump? Do
Hadn't
people
heard.
know? What's that?
Hadn't heard.
No, it turned out in his favor. It's still not enough to get the presidency, but you know how the electoral college works, right? But it put more electoral college votes over on Trump's side. Not enough to win, but it's still, that's just one state. There's still 5 more being investigated, or 4 more, that have question marks. Oh, what's going to happen when all of these states get overturned and in favor of Trump? And this is all happening in the background, people. It's just taking place quietly. Nobody's paying attention to it because the election is over with. But what a great time to clean up the mess. And that's exactly what's going on. So who the hell knows what's going to happen if it turns out that all these overturns ends up putting Trump over the amount of electoral college votes that he needed and Biden under. I mean, I don't think America's seen anything like this before. So what the hell? I mean, I haven't got 2 clues what is going to happen, but something's got to happen, because there's still more followers for Trump than there is for Biden. Why do you think Twitter took Trump off? Mm-hmm. Is because he had 80 million followers, and they needed those followers to go over to Biden's account. But it backfired because nobody went over to Biden's account.
Yeah, did I mention Biden's record smashing like ratio of 0.125?
That's crazy.
That's 8. You know, it varies, of course, but a number I often get is 8 times the number of dislikes to likes.
Wow.
That's like the highest dislikes I've ever seen on anything. I think I mentioned this before. The guy called Tech Racks on YouTube many years ago. He buys fancy tech and then destroys it in creative ways. And that video had a slightly negative like ratio, like I don't know, 200, say, let's say 200 likes and 205 dislikes or something like that. But yeah, I think
Nothing
Biden's
like
setting a
that.
record. Not the record
Wow.
he wants, but he's setting a record as far as the like ratio.
I know. I mean, the highest amount of views Biden has gotten so far has been him tripping on those steps. I seen one video,
Mm-hmm.
it was like 1.5 million views. My favorite, oh, and the memes. Oh my God, the memes. God love them. There was one, I was just like, somebody had CGI'd in a white ball coming across the screen, hitting Biden in the back of the head, and then he falls down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. On the other half of the screen is Trump taking a hard swing on the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see that ball go off of his side of the screen and over to Joe's side of the
Okay, I
screen.
see. Yeah.
Oh my God. I was like, oh my God, that is so hilarious. Somebody
Hi,
did
Bob.
one
We got Bob.
with,
Welcome.
hey, Bob. Uh, Someone did one when Trump did the first pitch at a ball game,
Mm.
like presidents do, and so they had him throwing the ball. But the golf one was by far the funniest one. So yeah, the memes. There's just so many memes. Such a lovely week. So what else can? Did anybody have any questions?
I don't know if anybody's watching. If you have a question, I've got just one thing, but I think maybe we can make a larger topic about it. We were talking about the rules as far as mortals versus Michael versus mortals. What there's a kind of a different set of rules. If we Michael can't just go ahead and inoculate us all with a discernment serum, but if we came up with one on our own and dispersed it throughout the world, then that would be fair. Make people either make everybody able to see the truth or able to decide. No, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of what's happening anyway. But you said Michael had poured out the gift of discernment on this planet for people to accept or not as they chose.
Accept the truth or not accept the truth. Accept
Right.
reality or reject reality.
And for the
And
record, I accept the gift of discernment, and may I learn to use it well. And ask Michael to show me how to use it well, because these things don't come with instructions for some reason.
no, the thought adjuster teaches us everything that we need to
Yes.
know.
Right.
And all we got to do is pay attention. And the thing is that if nobody has noticed, there's a lot more interference from the higher personalities on this planet now than there ever was in the last 2,000 years. Should be scratching your head and wondering why. Well, the reason why is because it's the same reason why Melchizedek had to incarnate in human form and walk among humans in human form, eat our food, suffer the same cold and hot, wet, dry conditions that we do. Because it gave him more latitude in his influence on the people in the region where he appeared. The Son of Man, same reason why he incarnated on the planet. Gave him way more latitude in interfering with our spiritual evolution. Because, I mean, look at what he did. I mean, everything that he taught us in a very short period of time. I mean, yeah, he taught his disciples and his apostles a lot of secrets. A lot of them got destroyed, and a lot of them didn't get written down because they, I don't know, I kind of think foolishly decided not to write things down because Jesus never wrote anything down. He only wrote in the sand. And Jesus did try to explain to them that his life was going to be very different from theirs, but they didn't pay much attention to it. So instead, what they wanted, they've tried to model a life after what Jesus did without thinking that what Jesus was really talking about, he really wanted them to see, was the content of his character. And that is what they should have been teaching, not trying to live like Jesus. I mean, we're not going to live like Jesus. Jesus was the son of, the son of God, the creator of our universe. We're not everybody is going to be able to walk that path and just have things materialize for them in life. Some of us like to work for a living, and some of us have to work for a living. So that means getting your ass out of bed and getting to work and getting the job done. How many times did Jesus just stop everything and tell the disciples and the apostles to be like, hey, we've got no money. Go do something with your hands for a little bit, and then we'll make some money. We got families to support. Jesus wasn't manifesting shit out of nowheres. But, how many people can live like that? Not too many. The lessons that should have been taught should have been about character development, what character is, and what the development of strong and true character is. Nathaniel understood this. He understood this quite well. This is why him and Peter ended up getting into a bit of a tiff. And I know that we went off track, but you know what? I'm going to follow this for a while because who knows? So Nathaniel and Peter ended up getting into a tiff, and because Peter and his followers were just like invoking a lot of rules on the people. And Nathaniel was like, well, that's bullshit. How many rules did the master put on us? Not that many. The rules that Jesus mainly instilled character traits upon them, traits to bolster their character, and giving them wisdom. And that's how Nathaniel looked at it. It's like, no, he should be like teaching people about the love of God and the love of Jesus, and develop a character, a strong character. And he took Jesus serious when Jesus talked about not hurting the little children and to raise children properly. Jesus talked a lot about raising children. Like, none of that made it into the Western Bible, but he talked a lot about it because he loved children, and plus he raised children. He raised his youngest sister, Ruth, because Joseph died before Ruth was born, and so Jesus was the only father that she knew, and he raised her along with his other younger brothers and sisters. He raised them all up. This was necessary so that the Son of Man would have a full human experience without the responsibilities of raising his own family, which he wasn't allowed to have kids anyways, because anytime higher personality incarnates on this planet, they're not allowed to leave behind kids. That would just be a bad thing. It fucks up the evolutionary path of the planet. So they just don't do it because they know that it's bad. And so he was able to do that. Well, Nathaniel paid attention. So when Nathaniel, he bailed west. He's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here, because he wasn't handling what Peter and his followers were laying down. I mean, they were like all about turn the other cheek. And Nathaniel was like, you know what? That was good for the master, but I live in the real world. And in the real world, you carry a sword. In our 21st century, you carry a knife or a gun. But that was basically Nathaniel's point of view, and so and that didn't agree well with Peter and his followers. So he took him and his followers went west, and they taught taught the true tenets of what Jesus was trying to teach. And also he added a bit of his own life philosophy to it. And basically what you end up with a couple of thousand years later is you end up with a group called the Sikhs. Now, mind you, this is not a perfect group, but I'll tell you, the ones that are like, that really like know the teachings, they're on board. And it's all about like the way they raise their children. And I've talked to a lot of Sikhs, and one young man, he told me exactly how he was raised, because I just ask good questions, I guess. And he told me that when he was young, his parents taught him everything that he knew, that he needed to know: reading, writing skills, discernment skills. Also taught him their spiritual teachings. He learned all of that. He said, but then as he got older, he said he would get antsy, and but his parents, uh, along with other parents, they would allow these kids to go and experience other things in the world, and then to come back when they have made up their own mind about things. And so he said, yeah, he said by the time he was like 16, he was allowed to read other books, allowed to look at magazines, uh, look at culture, Western culture. Like, none of it was off limits to him, he said. All of it. And he said by the time he was 18 years old, he had decided what path he was going to follow. And he went back to their temple, and he committed himself to the teachings and started progressing through the different levels that they have in their religion, to show where they're at in their spiritual development. And he could do this. He said nowadays, he said he can do this from anywhere in the world. I was like, nice. Mm-hmm. And that is basically how they are, what they teach. And also, they don't do turn the other cheek, by the way. No, they don't do turn the other cheek at all. You come into their village and you decide to bring sin and evil, yeah, it don't take them very long to get pissed off at you, and it won't take them very long to drag your ass in the street and out of town. Not long at all. Shit, I was talking to one guy earlier this week, and we got talking about family. Whoa, did he ever get passionate really fast. So I said, you guys are all about protecting family. You're like, oh, you don't mess with family. No, 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 no. And he he put his hand down by his hip. Now the knife wasn't there, but thought to myself, man, you were some used to wearing that when you did have it on. But yeah, because I mean, I was talking to him while he was at work, so obviously he's not wearing his knife to work, at least not openly. But yeah, he was old enough. He would look like he was in his late 50s, that he was very used to having it on his hip just by the gesture that he made. And yeah, that was quite the passionate conversation that I had with that guy. And I was like, wow. I was like, you guys just don't mess around, do you? So yeah, I really love talking to them. So Nathaniel taught them, don't be turning the other cheek. Fight for your loved ones. Because that was one of the things that Nathaniel was really upset about during the crucifixion. Even though he came to terms with why Jesus did it, he didn't like the idea of his master not defending himself when he knew damn right well that he could. It kind of annoyed Nathaniel just a little wee bit. And so that's why you got a slightly different teaching going on in the West than you do in the East. And personally, I kind of gravitate to the Western teachings of what was the new word that we learned? Yaoism?
Yeah, it's spelled. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's spelled Jesusism, but it has a kind of a more fancy pronunciation.
Yeah, Yaoism.
Yejusism.
Yejusism. Yeah, Yejusism. I think that's it. At least that's a Canadian pronunciation. And down, I guess, some parts of America, it's pronounced Jesusism.
Yeah.
And in Europe, it's pronounced almost like Judaism, or Jesus, or yeah, almost like Judaism. Anyways, so yeah, follow the teachings of Jesus. I don't know why everything else is just crap that they made up anyways.
Yeah, the Urantia book said it best. After the master ascended, the disciples and even some of the apostles fell into teaching a religion. Let me see, a religion about Jesus instead of the religion of Jesus.
Yes, that's what happened in the East. Nathaniel taught the religion of Jesus, whereas Peter taught about Jesus. And still powerful, though. I mean, it was still enough for the spirit of truth to work with. Jesusism, I guess, would probably be like much stronger in the East if it wasn't constantly being persecuted by the surrounding hordes. And it's amazing that it lasted as to this day, 2,000 years later, and the persecution of Christians still hasn't stopped in the East. It's still going on. I mean, yeah, go to China and try to teach Christian Jesuism. Yeah, they'll lock you right up with the practitioners of Falun Gong. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a traditional Chinese religion. They don't even like their own homegrown religions. The ruling party doesn't.
The Falun Gong, I don't know where the hell that came from, and I tried to find out, but not that much of the Chinese documents gets translated into English, and I can't make heads or tails of Chinese. So I all as far back as I could go with it was a doctor, like almost like 100 years ago. Some doctor introduced it, and he was like, and he taught all these people. But then I was like, well, where did he learn it? And according to his backstory, it's like he like attended like all these different temples where he trained, and then he like brought all of this stuff together and created this new practice, this new spiritual practice. And basically it's a way to like exercise all your energy points without actually overexerting yourself. This is why it's good for all ages. I've done it a couple of times. Probably should do it more, but I'll tell you, when you start doing it and you follow all the moves, you're wiped out. It can wipe you out. I guess that's probably why I never really got into it, is because every time I do it, it's like it wipes you out for a day or two. And it's just like, well, you know what? I got to go to work.
Yeah, I discovered that even with Tai Chi, it's really it's slow moving and everything, and you think, well, there's not a lot of physical energy that goes into it, not like karate or judo or something, or jujitsu, but it's the same thing. There's the non-physical energy is, you're working that, and you get it's a workout.
Yeah, it's because we're just not used to it. It's and all of this stuff is all just, these are all tools provided by the Eternal Father. I mean, I always laugh when people like call like, things evil, and, or anything supernatural evil. It's like, these are all tools of the universe. And like any tool, if you misuse that tool, you might lose a finger. But if you use the tool properly, the tool is safe. I had to trim a tree in my backyard, so I went and rented one of those pole saws. Okay, so that you can reach up in the tree and do a lot of trimming. And I've never used one of them before. Now, do you think that I just brought that thing home and fired it up and started to work? I'm not an idiot. Not when I have YouTube. So all I did is I just sat down in my shed for about maybe 10 minutes, watched a couple of videos of people trimming trees and giving quick tutorials and, things to watch out for, things that you should be aware of when you're using this tool. That, if it kicks back, could hurt you. Just stuff like that. 10 minutes of my time. I think I watched like 3 videos. And I was like, oh. But not only did I have a narrator explaining shit, I was also watching it work and how he was holding the saw, how he was working it. And I'm like, oh, okay then. And then fucking boom. Jumped up on the roof of the garage and started at the top and worked my way to the bottom, just like the video said. It's like start on the outer branches and work your way into the trunk, and just keep doing that. Cut off small pieces. Don't try to take whole branches down at once, which is probably what I would have done. But then after seeing the video, I was like, oh, well, that's just a smart way to do it. And yeah.
Yeah, I've seen professional arborists. They actually go up in the tree, and they want to take this one branch off. They go out near the end, cut that part, and they work their way back toward the trunk, cutting off maybe 1 foot, 2 foot pieces. Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's, it's in a populated area. There's houses and cars and all sorts of things. Somebody's bushes that you just don't start cutting limbs off the tree. And
I had a little.
it's easier to
I
do
had.
that because I actually watched. Well, I didn't watch this. It was I had a brochure that I looked at about how to prune the trees, and even when you want to take off a whole branch at the beginning, you cut a little bit out from the trunk, you cut up from the bottom part way, and then you cut down from the top a little bit out of that. So if it peels, it won't peel all the way back to the trunk and harm the tree that way. And then you're left with
Oh,
a
okay.
stub branch, maybe a couple feet long max, and then you cut that off at a certain angle, a certain distance from the trunk, so it can heal nicely.
Yes. Yeah.
Not too long and not like right up against the trunk. You leave just a little flange, I guess.
Yeah. And then the next thing is that I left the tree because it's one of those trees that like it's constantly sprouting branches out of its trunk, and so I left a good chunk of it still there. So it's still like maybe 16 feet high, but at least I don't have to worry about the wind blowing it over onto the house now, which was becoming a concern because I mean it was a tall tree. And so now I'm thinking all those like spots where I cut, I figure I'm gonna have to. I'm thinking I'll probably just cauterize them with a torch so that the sap doesn't get drawn out of it, so that the tree may live. So that's what I'm thinking is next, or maybe just paint them. I don't know
You
which.
can look up. There's probably videos on, some tree surgeon's website, and they tell you what to do about it. I took forestry classes in university and I researched some of this stuff, but I just know how to prune them. I don't know what you do about what you're talking about, whether you do anything or what you do if you want to or whatever. But yeah, no, getting information before you start on something is really good. We just bought a tractor to upgrade our old loader tractor. It was a 1958 Farmall 460 with a Franken loader. It's basically dying. It has 0 oil pressure even when you first start it now. And so we bought a 2004 New Holland bi-directional tractor, the one with the loader on the back, and it's got a 3-point on each end and so on. So
for shit's sakes.
We unloaded it on the road, and I drove it in the yard and parked it, and then I'll end up spending several hours with the operator's manual before I even change the oil on that thing, because it's a tractor, but it's configured quite a lot differently than ones I'm familiar with, and I don't have to get it up and running like instantly, so I want to make sure I know what everything is supposed to do.
Oh yeah, I mean shit. I buy a new van and I read the owner's manual. It doesn't take very long. I mean, to me, shit like that, you speed read it until you come across something that's, oh, I don't know what this information is.
Yes.
And then you just slow down a little bit. And then you get to the stuff that you already know, you speed read through that. It's like, yeah, okay, know this. Thanks for the reminder. Oh, I don't know this. And I guess the moral of the story, if there is one, don't be afraid of the energies in the universe.
Yes.
Just go do some research, ask some questions. And here's the thing. God will answer every question that you have. Every question. Providing that you word that question properly. And the way that you have to word your question is you got to be real specific and real succinct with your question. It's like you want to get a good idea of how to ask proper questions. Watch the Jen movies. And it's hilarious because, okay, in these movies, they're thriller, horror, whatever. And but in these movies, somebody always finds the main character of the movie finds a jinn. Okay, the jinns aren't necessarily evil, but they're not good either. And what the thing is about this movie is when the people make their wishes. They don't word anything properly. They don't give any forethought to what they're wishing for. They no thought. Like one king that had the jinn, he was like, I want to have a party that nobody will ever forget, that will be remembered forever. And the jinn was like, are you sure? And Buddy's like, yep. And yeah, the jinn gave him a party, and nobody forgot that party. You know why nobody forgot that party? Because every sadistic thing that you can think of happened at this party. And at the end of it, the king's enemies basically burnt down his city because they were like, wow, we do not want this shit coming to our town, so we're just going to burn the city and make sure that it stays here. And of course, the jinn gets trapped again and waits a couple of thousand years before it's pulled out again by another human. And same thing happens again. A human makes a wish without any thought. I want world peace. She thought she was wishing for something wonderful. Jinn's like, no problem. Empties the world of people.
That'd do it.
Because you didn't think, how do you get world peace instantly? Get rid of the people, because it's the people that are fighting. So you get rid of everybody that's fighting, which basically empties the planet. So now this poor girl's living in a world. Her only company is a jinn that basically doesn't give a shit. And yeah, so had to take back that wish. And so yeah, you got to be specific and you got to be succinct.
Yeah, so my advice, ask the questions over and over in your mind, and it's almost, I've had 30 years experience at it now. It becomes an automatic process. You keep asking the question, and yeah, when you know specific and succinct, it keeps paring itself down until it's closer and closer to, and then at some point it almost answers itself. But I think the reason it appears to do that is because you basically tune yourself to so close to the Father's frequency that you're thinking on the same wavelength.
Exactly.
And you're,
yeah. No, that's exactly it. You described it to a T. You're repeating the question and over, and then like there was one question that I had, and I kept on asking this question over and over again. Where do souls come from? It was like, because in my mind, it was like, if we know where the souls come from, then you can backwards engineer the universe. Answer that one question, and you can backwards engineer the universe. That was my thinking. And well, I was correct in my thinking. So I kept on asking that question. Remember when we first met and was at the library, and I drew out on the board what I had seen for an evolution of souls at that point in my experience. And I think back to what we were talking about, and I was like, wow, that took 20 years for the Father to answer. And the reason why it took 20 years for the Father to answer that one question is because there were so many complexities in answering that question that the only way to answer that question was to build brick by brick by brick the information necessary to get me to the point to where, oh, that's why, or that's how. So I remember telling you at the time that you have a master soul, and that master soul releases a clone of itself, and then that clone, that souled clone, comes to Earth and inhabits a human body, and then a character and a personality is built. I didn't even know then just how close I was, but because I hadn't put the Father in that equation at that point in my life, because at that point I was actually avoiding putting the Father in the equation, is what I was doing. But yet he still showed me how it all worked. And then now I see it how it all is, because, well, the Urantia book kind of spells it out. But the thing is that the Urantia book still would have been useless without all that foundational information to build upon, because there were other foundational informations that I needed before I got that book, because it kind of half pissed me off that it took that long for the book to come into my reality. And I mean, when I first seen it, I was like, how the fuck was this not on my radar 20 years ago? I mean, I was constantly looking for books, constantly searching and reading books. And I was just like, how the fuck did this not end up on my radar? Just completely not there. And then one day it dropped in my lap. And it's just like, well, what the hell? Well, I mean, it was mentioned in a video. I think I told this story before. A rock artist was carrying one. And I'm just like, well, what the fuck is that? And yeah, I went looking. So, but I could have been given that book years ago, but I would have only been focused on one aspect of the book. But because the book came to me at this point, I have a broader knowledge base because of my searching that I've done. In fact, I probably have a broader knowledge base than most people. So I can see most of the playing field. I can see most of the board. And that's why I'm able to see exactly what the book has been talking about. And yeah, and it fits. The part that really blows my mind is that it fits with the archaeological history of this planet. Not with the written history. Forget the written history. Forget it. It's mostly bullshit. Well, it's
fake
all bullshit.
News. Fake.
Yeah.
The written history is fake news.
Yeah. Go
Most
follow. Yeah, have most of it. Yeah. Follow the archaeological history. And if you follow the archaeological history, then you'll get to the truth. And the thing is that, and they're doing us a huge disservice because they're hiding a lot of archaeology, a lot of it. There's a place in California. It's a mine. They have discovered so much shit in this mine, and it paints a very, very different story of the history of this planet, the early history of this planet. And you're not even allowed to know about it, let alone go there. You're not even supposed to know this place exists. And, well, I know it exists because people have written books about it, and they've gotten this information out, and files have been released. There's places in Canada, in British Columbia, that you're not allowed to know about. That tells a very different history about Western Canada. You're not allowed to know about these places at all. Like, you're not allowed to know that there's a replica of Stonehenge at the bottom of a lake in British Columbia. You're not allowed to know that, but it's there. Divers have found it. It's been documented. You've got to go looking for that information, and you've got to go digging hard for it. First Nations know all about it. They've always known about it. Hell, the name of the lake pretty much tells you. I forget the name of the lake, but the name of the lake is related to circle. But the lake's not round. It's a long lake. But yet, in the native language, it means circle. And so, yeah, the natives knew all about it. Same thing goes on down in South America. The name of a place will tell you everything you need to know about that place if you understood the native language. Everything you need to know. And but that's why they want the language forgotten. And they don't want it, this is why they had to destroy First Nations culture, is because they didn't want any of that to be remembered. Well, there was other reasons why that culture was destroyed. Mostly because their spiritual currency had pretty much fallen through the floor, and that left them wide open. And that pretty much sums up every war and every battle in human history. When the spiritual currency of a nation falls through the floor, war always comes to their doorstep.
Okay.
And you can be like, oh, that's not how it works at all. Well, either they have made war with their neighbors, and their neighbors end up coming to their doorstep and destroying them. This is how things have gone all through history. It's like, when the spiritual currency hits zero, the only cohesion left for a nation is war. This is why the deep state wants to make war in the world, because it lowers the spiritual currency of the nation, and the lower they can keep that, the more control they have over the people. Which, for the life of me, I cannot figure out why they want control over people. It's like, why? It's like, what are you gaining? It's like, just set up a fair capitalist system, and you've already got a head start on the rest of us, so you'll be just fine.
when I look at these, the ones I can see, and the deep state is, I love how Kevin Trudeau put it in his Your Wish is Your Command seminar. He said, he's talking about people who are worth $100 billion or something, and that was at the point when the richest person in the world I knew was Bill Gates or whoever, 50 billion. But he says, Kevin says, the real money, no one knows their names, no one knows who they are. The multi-billion, the 100 billionaires, that's just who's verified. That's just who we know exists. There's people who, but crud. Now so when I was attempting to do some kind of actual analysis of these people's personality, they strike me, they strike me as autistic 5-year-olds. and I cannot figure them out. I don't know what they're about. I don't want to know what they're about. I just want it fixed. So
this is what happens when you unseat the thought adjuster.
mm,
There is no character, there is no personality growth, so there is no character growth.
mm,
You gotta remember, the thought adjuster is our personality, that which is a gift from the Universal Father, because the Universal Father is the Father of personality. He did not give that up to anyone else, not to the Eternal Son, not to the Eternal Daughter, not to his Creator's sons. It's his prerogative. And so the thought adjuster comes, that's the personality. And as the thought adjuster travels to a universe of time and space, he starts out his journey as a whole, even though he's just a fleck of the Eternal Father. He is everything the Eternal Father is. But as he travels into the dimensions of time and space, into where we are, pieces of that personality is pulled off, so that all that is left are the pieces that make up the personality of a Taurus, that make up the personality of a Sagittarius, that makes up the personality of a Leo. These are not pieces that come together to make something. These are the pieces that are left over from the thought adjuster traveling.
yeah.
Now, a Leo on planet Earth is not the same as a Leo on another planet. In fact, they probably have a completely different type of pantheon for personalities, because it'll be similar to ours, but it'd be different because they are in different coordinates within time and space. So the thought adjuster had to go by different suns, different planets. This is what happens with the thought adjuster as he moves past these gravitational fields of these other planets. Pieces of him get ripped off. Now, this also serves a purpose for the universe, because this is pieces of the Father being ripped off of the thought adjuster. You think the universe isn't in cooperation? Yeah. It's in cooperation. It's not in competition. It's in cooperation. So while these pieces are being ripped off, they have been delivered to the universes of time and space. And these are pieces of God. So this becomes matter. This is like when the hunters go out into Michael's universe and they're looking for energy. They sniff it out. They can sense it. And they find these patches of the pieces of thought adjuster that got sheared off in its travel. And when these pieces start coming together and start conglomerating, then they can sniff it out and they'll find it and then they'll mark it. And it's like, that's a future galaxy.
Okay. Oh, and yeah. while we're on the, before I forget, when you say thought adjuster, or when I think about the thought adjuster, for some reason I see some kind of an entity shaped like an arrowhead zooming out from the center of the universe up. That's how I see it. I mean, it's been described in all sorts of different ways, but I see something like an arrowhead zooming through space. It's a fragment of the
shard.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, y'all would shit your pants if you knew what Michael really looked like. Every one of you would shit your pants. What, you think he looks like us? His true form? think hourglass, hourglass shape with dozens of tentacles coming from the top, going into the hourglass shape, and then coming out. Now, what this shape allows Michael to do is that it allows him to be able, basically his shape, that sort of hourglass shape with the tentacles that can come out, that is actually the blueprint for our form in this universe. All forms in this universe are modeled after that form. We see it as the pentagram, okay, but think like more narrowed in. But that's essentially the blueprint, the baseline blueprint for intelligent life in this universe. So Gene Roddenberry's idea of everything, like all the aliens in Star Trek having like a humanoid type structure, is mostly correct. Like Star Trek really is like almost bang on with like when it shows the variety of life forms in this universe.
Yeah, I figured Gene was tuned into something when he was working on that, because it's really interesting if you watch it from that perspective.
Yeah, he was tuned into something. And he read the Urantia book, by the way.
Oh,
yeah. So
that explains some of the resolutions of some of the episodes, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, this is how Michael would like this to be resolved.
Well, even
or how Michael might try to resolve it.
The thing is about the Urantia book, and because of the way that it's written, and also, incidentally enough, the Q posts and the way they are written, and we both figured this out, is that it's written in such a way that it reprograms the mind.
Yes.
It reorganizes the mind to be more in tune with the morphogenic fields. I haven't, like, it's genius how it does it. It really is genius. It's like, wow. On another, I mean, I have done stuff like that when I've talked to people. I've used that type of structure, but because I wanted to, I would talk directly to the thought adjuster. And it blows my mind that I figured that out on my own. And then to be shown that, oh, by the way, this is actually a universal concept for teaching.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow. Restructure the neural network to be more efficient, creating pathways that ask questions because of the way that it's written, especially the Q post. The Q post, like, wow. I mean, that really does a number on the neural pathways in your mind when you read them from start.
I got a question. How approximately Jesus's ministry, from when he kind of first began it in earnest until the crucifixion, about how long a time period was that?
I thought I counted 5 years.
5 years. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking 3 for some reason, and Q was online for approximately 3 years, and it's paused, or
I might be wrong. I might be thinking of the. Yeah, I might be thinking that there were 2 years where he was just kind of doing things on his own. but in earnest, I think you might be right. 3 years
I'm
from like
thinking from when he
from the
started
time,
with the apostles.
yeah, from the
When he kind of
apostles.
did that till the crucifixion, I'd be interested to know if that was. I'd have to look it up. I'm wondering.
Well,
3 years?
shit. Now you got my curiosity going. I'm gonna have to check that. I like really. I mean, if the amount of days are the same, that would be fucked. Like that'd be fucked on a level that I'm just like, wow. Is like coincidence much? So there, if that were the case, there would only be two explanations that could explain that.
Mhm.
One, the person that is writing the Q post read the Urantia book, or two, the person that's writing the is writing the post is the main character in the Urantia book.
Because that's from, I think, October 17th, 2017
Yeah.
until November the 8th. The last one is November the 8th, isn't it, of 2020?
December.
December the 8th. Let me just check.
I'm pretty sure the last one was in December, and it just said Durham.
There's one more. There's one more. I'm gonna
Oh, the
check it.
YouTube video. Yes, the
Yeah.
YouTube video, and it was like for hope.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, I never thought of that before, too. I wonder if the days between when Q posted line up with the days that the Son of Man appeared after the resurrection.
Mm.
Damn, that's messed up. That is messed up.
Yeah, so there's December the 8th, yes. There's
That would be
obviously a
messed
post
up.
on November the 3rd, and then there's a couple other. It ends with, well, yeah, Durham was the last one for a while. And then December the 8th is a video.
Because the thing is that if that is Michael, he's going to it's going to be set up in such a way that we will know.
October 28th. I just went and found the first one. It's October 28th, 2017 to December 8th, 2020. And yeah.
So, and this is so yeah, if Michael did write those posts, there are like, it's when everything comes out, people will look back and it should become totally apparent, plain as day, that it was Michael all along, because that's how Michael does things, is tells you that it's him without telling you that it's him.
The one that makes me wonder the most, or makes the one that I would point to as evidence to that, I think it's part of I don't think it's a sole post. I think it's part of one, but the line is, "You will be very surprised when you find out who is talking to you."
So when the first
That
time I read,
implies that we will be told.
Yes.
Or find out somehow beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm thinking of the caliber at which this is all happening.
I think that the Q posts have already told us who it is. And we just have to figure out what we already know. And that's exactly how Michael does it. I mean, look at the way that he dealt with the apostles. Whenever they would like come close to even guessing who he was, and they'd be like, "Who are you really?" And he was like, "Well, who do you think I am? What do the people say?" I mean, what a shitty thing to do, really. But, you know, because they wanted a straight answer, but Jesus was like, "You ain't getting no straight answer on that one, bye." And I know why he wouldn't give the apostles a straight answer, because it would falsely embolden them, is what it would do. Because it's like, okay, you know, he's the creator of the universe. Well, how do you know he's the creator of the universe? Because he told me. Yeah, you know what? Somebody came up to me and said that shit to me. I'd be like, yeah, guess what? Grass is green, sky is blue. People lie. That's the shit that they do. But by Jesus being like, well, who do you think I am? And they're just like, well, I don't know. And he's like, okay, I'll make it even easier for you. What do the people say? And then you gotta, oh, okay, well, the people say you're the Messiah. Okay. Some say that you're Moses reborn. And yeah, and they go and they went on and on. You're Isaiah. You're not Isaiah, but Elijah. And so they went on and on until finally Jesus would corner them and just say, well, what say you? And then the apostles, one of them was even brave enough to say, well, I think you're the Son of God. And that's Jesus was like, then you're probably correct. Still didn't give him a good answer.
Didn't even. 405 days, if I calculate correctly. October 28th, 2017, 3 years plus 10, November, December the 8th. No, wait a minute. I did it wrong. It's 2 months. No, let's see. November, December. Yeah, 405 days. 365 days from the October 28th to 28th, 3 years. And then a month, and then another 10 days, 40 days. 405 days.
405.
That's what I get. See what you think. And well,
I am pretty sure there's a sentence in the Urantia book that does tell you.
400. Does it say 405
that tells you exactly.
days?
That tells you exactly how many days Jesus ministered.
Oh, and that. Okay, I was thinking.
Yeah, I think that there is, but it's
yeah.
it's either reread or come up with a real clever search term.
Yeah. Oh, and I wanted to ask you again. We were talking about archaeology, and I wanted to ask you this before I forget. I've heard that there was a strata found with a fossilized dinosaur footprint and a fossilized human footprint in the same strata. Is that anything is that a thing, or is somebody just
that's nothing new.
Theory? It's nothing new. It's a thing.
New.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there's like more than one.
Mm-hmm.
One? Okay. Yeah. Could be faked. Yeah, they found more than one. They found a couple. I forget where they are in the world, but I've seen the pictures and I've seen the video. And there's also another little anomaly thing that is real curious. And there is a place in Turkey, and what it is that it's a mountain, solid mountain, but there are tire tracks in the stone.
Yeah, that's right. The fossilized Jeep tracks, or whatever they are. It's like some vehicle drove through mud, and however old, this thing is thousands of years old, and
fossilized perfectly as the Jeep went through. I mean, I'm from New Brunswick. I've driven through a lot of mud holes with an ATV. You don't look back and see a perfect track.
No. No.
You've plowed enough fields and you've looked back. You don't see a perfect tire track behind you. These things are perfect. I'm just like, wow, blown away. First time I see them, I was like, these things are fucking perfect. Well, that actually gives validity to, you ever heard of a theory called mud fossil?
No, have not.
Okay. Buddy is onto something. I'll tell you, it's mud fossil's fun, but it's fantastic for the mind to try to imagine this shit. It's like, what the fuck? Because he's talking like creatures that are kilometers tall or kilometers long. And but the evidence that he shows makes you sit down and scratch your head, because it kind of answers some questions. And yeah, so basically, this guy, he's got a theory called mud fossil, and apparently he was like he's got a medical background. And somehow he got into studying fossils, and um, he started noticing things in rocks, and that because of his background as a medical doctor, he could see things through a different lens. Well, one of the things that turned him on was these rocks down South America, they're perfectly rounded spheres. Nobody knows how the fuck they did that. Like, these things are perfect, like near perfect, and nobody knows how they did it. It's like, wow. It's like, even today we would have a challenge doing it. Well, as a doctor, he was like, they look a lot like these little spherical calcium balls that, and we all have them in our bodies, especially reptiles, and they attach the ends of our muscles. And I guess we got like thousands or even millions of these things in our body. And it's like the attachment point on the where the muscle attaches to the bone. Now, he says, in people, average person, these little balls are like 2 to 3 millimeters. Okay, a little nub at the end of your muscle. And without these, your muscles wouldn't function properly. And now, he said, reptiles have a more robust system of these muscle attachments than mammals do. So, but they both have them, and fish have them too, I guess. But or like marine life, marine life have them too. All mammals and all reptilian. Fish don't. And so he was like, well, how big of a creature would it have to be for these balls to be the anchor points for their muscles? Because, like I said, nobody knows how these spheres are made. There's thousands of them, and they dig them up all the time. Like, all the time, they dig them up. And it's like, where do they all come from? And this guy's explanation is pretty good, but it would mean that it's a creature that's like 10 kilometers long. And, God only knows how tall, maybe 5 kilometers tall. Big creature. So it's like, what the hell? I mean, a creature that big? I mean, we're talking like Godzilla. I mean, I've watched the Godzilla movies. I mean, what this guy's talking about is something that's like 10 times the size of Godzilla. And it's like, okay. So, anyways, so he has no idea what he stumbled across, but I think I know what he stumbled across. This is where shit gets real weird. What I think he stumbled across is creatures that lived on a planet, a water planet, that used to orbit where the asteroid belt is. Mars was one of the moons that orbited this planet, called Tiamat. And it was an ocean world, close enough to the sun to be liquid water. We already know today in our science that the only thing necessary for life to exist is liquid and heat. And what we're coming to find out is that it doesn't seem to matter what liquid it is, and it doesn't seem to matter how much heat it is. Heat is anything above 0 degrees Kelvin, by the way. That's heat. So the universe or space is at like 2 degrees Kelvin. That's heat. If something could stay liquid at that temperature, that would potentially create life. Is essentially what we have found out in the 21st century about life. That's all that's necessary. And it comes out. We suspect that some kind of static electrical charge is the catalyst to start. And then where it goes from there depends on the environmental. But we both know that from there, it really depends on the power handlers that or the life carriers.
The life carriers, yeah.
Yeah, and so life carriers and the power handlers working together. I think that's how it goes. Anyways, so it would be reasonable to assume that there would be life on that liquid, on that ocean planet. No matter what temperature that liquid water was at, there would be life in there. How big that life would get would be anybody's guess. But if my thinking, my reasoning is correct, then it would, then it stands to reason that there were people or beings on this planet that could move material from Tiamat to Earth, probably using Mars as a way station. So what the fuck were the Fallen doing? I mean, there was more going on all at once here, because I've been to Saskawayakano. I probably butchered the shit out of that. I'm sorry. In Cusco, Peru. When I went there and I put my hands on those rocks, and there were rocks that were moved out of place, and I put my hand between the joints and I could feel the surfaces. Those surfaces were mirrored. And those blocks looked like they were piled like wet meat. And somehow they got mineralized. I'm thinking that the Fallen had a way to harvest creatures from Tiamat, bring them to Earth, cut them into pieces, do whatever they want, and then somehow was able to mineralize them. Hell, maybe they'd have to build the whole structure all at once and then mineralize it at the end. It's like, what the hell? And when I look at like some stone, like some caverns, like the ones in Petra, and you go inside and you see how it's all cut out inside. I mean, before I even stumbled across this mud fossil guy, I mean, first time I looked at those pictures, I was like, that looks like it got cut from a side of meat. Because you could see like all these layers going all through it. And I'm just like, if that's sedimentary rock that got laid down, like, I really would love to know the scientific explanation for how that happened. That you would end up with red stone, white stone, black stone, red stone, black stone, white stone. And you'd look up the wall and across the ceiling, And not only that, this is the part that really gets your mind going, is that not only are these lines going up the wall at an angle, you also see the slicing, the sedimentary on the ceiling, and how it's going up. Well, it's not lines, it's more like in swirls. Like, again, like you're looking through a organ in some kind of giant creature. And yeah, and it's supposed to be limestone. I mean, the whole front is limestone, apparently. So yeah, some weird things. I seen a picture of a statue. It looked realistic, and it was supposed to be old, but it's like, and it was like completely fossilized. I mean, if you look at it, you would swear to God that at one time it was alive. It was a statue of a giant, probably about maybe 40 feet tall, and makes you wonder what the hell was going on this planet when you see shit like that. And yeah, regular archaeologists don't have an explanation for any of this. Yeah. So I think what they did is that they probably harvested the shit out of Tiamat, and taking creatures from one planet to another is never a good idea. I mean, look at the devastation that can happen when you take a frog to Australia. And so I think that this planet has suffered ecological damage from invasive species. And, well, Tiamat's not in the night sky. Oh, and then there's stories in the old books that talk about a time before the moon. Oh, and oh yeah, did I tell you the vision about the moon that I had? That it was an egg?
So.
Yeah, that was an egg on Tiamat. And I'd have to wonder, it's like, how big would a creature have to be to shit out an egg like that? It'd be a big creature. And it would also explain all those round spheres, if Buddy is correct. I think that's where I was heading on that one, and then got sidetracked. But yeah, mud fossil. That's a weird one. Yeah, and he finds evidence of this stuff all over the world. Like these carcasses were just dropped from the sky and then utilized. And maybe that's what happened. And well, Tiamat's not there. We have an asteroid belt. And probably if you looked at it, added up all the material in the asteroid belt, it would probably equal the size of a small planet. But also, we're also talking about a water planet, and the water made it much bigger. So
the core of a water planet the size of Neptune or something.
Exactly. Or the water planet was the size of Neptune and the core was the size of, I don't know, Mars.
Yeah, that's what I said. I meant, sorry, the core was however big. I was saying the planet was the size of Neptune and its core was however big the core is. Smaller than Neptune, obviously. Size of the Earth or Mars or something.
And it makes me think that this stuff happened a long time ago too, because I came across this story, and it was a interesting story, and it talks about all the planets in the in our solar system, but it gives the story like these are gods, and then their children. And while I was like reading this, I was like, a thought came to me, and I was like, is it possible that moons because when you look at the moon, especially the moons of Jupiter, they're all like different, and they all have atmospheres, by the way. And I'm looking at this, and I'm reading this text, and of course, and of the science that we know today, and I was like, is it possible that moons really are the children of their parent planet?
Mm.
What if this is something that planets do? They give birth to moons. I mean, we know that planets are birthed from the sun. Planets giving birth, so it all goes out in creation. I mean, obviously, the moons that orbit Mars are not real moons. They're basically asteroids caught in Mars orbit. They found themselves in a perfect Lagrange point. And Lagrange point is a place in the orbit of a bigger planet where there's a crossing of fields, and
Yeah,
if you can find that point, you can get in that point and you stay in that point. You do not move, and you'll orbit there forever.
Yeah, I started to figure out stuff like that. I read Arthur C. Clarke, and it talked about, a space station was at this point, or a ship went to this one of these points, and I had no idea what they were talking about. It was like 12 years old, but then gradually I started seeing examples of this in a diagram, and it's something to do with the forces, gravitational forces in the orbit of a planet, or between a planet and its orbiting. I think the Earth, between the Earth and the Moon, there are some, and something like that. It's like halfway, gravitationally halfway between the Earth and the Moon. And then there's also points, I think there's a total of 5 of them between one body orbiting another. There's like
multiple.
two in orbit, like at equidistant, a third of the way around the orbit one way and a third of the way around the orbit the other way or something. Yeah. And then between, I don't know, I'd have to look it all up again. I'm thinking of something else. I'm fascinated with the night sky and stars and planets and stuff, but astrophysics is not my strong suit. I'll have to study my star charts before I get on a ship to go anyplace.
No, you're correct. These are just points that are gravity neutral, and they for just because of the energies, the way that they converge, because everything's a wave, and so, anyways, that's basically where these asteroids ended up, which probably are pieces of Tiamat still orbiting Mars. Well, Mars has changed now. Mars is the parent because its mother planet has died, and I think that it died. I think the Fallen were not environmentally conscious of what they were doing, and I don't think they cared. I mean, Mars had a thriving ecosystem, and if you haven't figured that out by now, then again, pull your head out of the sand. NASA's already said it more than once. There's just a debate on how long ago it was. And here's the kicker. I've heard dates in the scientific community that they're not allowed to talk about, and one of those dates is 100,000 years. But they're not allowed to say that one. So they add a couple of zeros on the end and call it 1,000,000. It's 100,000 years. I mean, that's not that, in the whole grand scheme of things, that's not that. Yeah, that's nothing. It's not that long ago. And I mean, the Earth is like 4 billion years old, like 4.2 billion years old.
4.5 is what I always heard. But yeah, 4 plus. 4 plus.
Yeah, 4 plus. So 100,000 years is you know, not even a piss hole in the
Nothing.
snow. It's not even a millisecond on the clock. So, and to have that much happen in such a short period of time, it's like, what the hell? But it also explains why Adam and Eve were so late coming to the party. Is because they couldn't come while the fallen were in like complete control. Everything, the fallen basically lost everything 50,000 years ago in the first catastrophe. And here's the kicker. They can't blame Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Michael had nothing to do with these catastrophes. Zero to do with these catastrophes. Because on a planet that has normal evolution, one of the first things that the human species or any intelligent species will figure out very, very quickly is that they have control over what goes on in the space around their planet. And they would move asteroids with their mind. Well, they're already hundreds of millions of kilometers out. This is all done through, we call it remote viewing today. And it's a thing, remote viewing. The CIA uses it. The Russians use it. It's only, I think, since 2000 that they have been allowed to disclose about remote viewing. And people that have been trained by the CIA, they turned around, they started training regular people how to do it. Yeah, and so yeah, it's a thing. I've seen it in action, and it's like, it's damn accurate. It's damn accurate. Yeah, we talked about this before, so I'm not going to go into it again. So after everything was destroyed about 52,000 years ago, and there's evidence of that all over South America, and whatever happened, it was a east to west movement, because that is how all the buildings fell. Follow Brian Forrester's work on this, and you can see it as plain as day, because all the brickwork shifted east and west. And also it looks like crazy amount of like lightning bolts coming from the sky. And you want to have great fun? Zoom up close to on a satellite view of or take a bird's eye view of Saskatchewan on Google Earth, and you look at how the land is, and you just scratch your head and ask yourself, doesn't that look like an electrical current going along the ground? And this is all over the planet. Or you can see with just like lightning in the ground. And so, I mean, I made that leap when I seen a piece of art. It's called electricity art. You ever see it? Anyways, they set up this panel, and then it's like clear, and then they shoot a bolt of electricity through this panel. And then you see the paths that the electricity took as it traveled through the panel, and it makes beautiful art. And yeah, you look at that, and then you look at Saskatchewan from above, and you're just like, holy shit. It looks exactly the same. Exactly.
Well, you know what else I just remembered? On with this one episode of Smarter Every Day, he went to a lab that custom prints magnets. You can actually make a magnetic thing that this way they're opposed a little bit. You turn them that way, and it's It's like a latch. They can actually draw magnetic fields, and they have this mat with, I guess it's got iron filings in a gel or something, and you put it over a magnet, and it will show you the magnetic field.
Hmm.
And then you say it's reusable. You can put it over the magnet and then take it away, and then put it over another magnet, and it shows you that magnetic field. And yeah, so yeah, magnetic fields and electrical fields and things are really interesting.
And so, yeah, it's so something happened 52,000 years ago where uh, this huge catastrophe happened, and I'm thinking that's probably about the time that Tiamat was destroyed. Or Tiamat was destroyed 50,000 years before or thereabouts, and the effects took that long to reach Earth or to affect Earth. But whatever happened, somebody did put our moon in orbit. Somebody did that. There is, I mean, just about every scientist agrees that there is a stronger argument for why we shouldn't have a moon than an argument for having one. And I think it was there to control all the water. Because when you look at Earth without the oceans, you got to ask yourself, where the fuck did all the water come from? Because, I mean, that's a question that I ask. It's like, where did all the water come from? And some of the stuff in the ocean doesn't look like it evolved here at all. Not at all. And, you know, and what's this allergy towards seafood? What kind of vibration is that giving off that there are so many people that are allergic to it? And, yeah, so there's those questions too. I mean, why are people allergic to bees? What kind of vibration are you in tune to that a bee sting becomes such a severe reaction? Say again, it all comes down to vibration. What are you vibrating at? And that's doing stuff around you that you might not like. Nikola Tesla said it's all about vibration. If you understand vibration, then you'll understand the universe. To understand the universe, you have to understand vibration. And so, yeah, energy. So I think that, yeah, they totally fucked this solar system hard. And our path to evolution has been so corrupted because we would have had the baby steps necessary to go out into our own galaxy. Because the thing is that we would have started out here on Earth. Elon Musk is right. It is the duty of every intelligent species in the universe to get the fuck off their home planet and fast and to get out there. He is not incorrect. And we are not doing that. I mean, we are still sitting in our own in our starter aquarium. That's basically where we are. We're still in our starter aquarium, and we're polluting the shit out of this place. But if we got off planet and we go out to the greater universe, then all the questions, everybody's going to be like, oh, you know, it's like, you know, we need birth control. We need, you know, we need to control the population. Guess what? All that shit goes out the window now. That's gone. See you later. We won't be talking about that shit again for about maybe 10 million years. But we got to get off the planet. And we've been hampered because our progression, the steps that we would have taken, our stairs are completely ruined, totally dismantled.
The fallen they trashed our solar system.
Yep.
And then we're following their example and trashing the planet. Except we're kind of maybe turning that around now.
Hopefully.
We'll see. Hopefully, we'll find out.
Well, if we can get off the planet, then we can, you know, we can get out there and start living on other planets. But we have to go. We have to take this quantum leap now. Whereas most civilizations would progress with their external power capabilities, we have to make the quantum leap from rockets to warp drive. Because there's nothing in the solar system that we can salvage.
Right.
They've destroyed it all. And but if they hadn't of, this is the best part. I mean, if they hadn't of, we would have made it into orbit. Probably not that long. We would have probably made it into orbit over 100,000 years ago. We were well on our way. We would have already been orbiting the planet, and would have already been figuring shit out. It wouldn't have probably about maybe 50,000 years ago, we had already be colonizing Mars. And then we would still be there right up until about this point. Or maybe even 2,000 years ago, we probably would have left our solar system, I think. 2,000 years ago, yeah.
If we can set up a colony on another planet we're there for 1,000 years, yeah, and we can go anywhere in the solar system easy and set up bases and things.
Well, here's the thing. Once we got to Mars, okay, let's say we got to Mars 2,000 years ago, okay? This might be fun. And we're there. Now, the first thing we're going to figure out is that, holy shit, this water planet, it's got some big-ass creatures in there. And we're going to fucking figure out what we can do. And I don't think it's going to take it wouldn't take scientists very long to figure out that, hey, if we can steal one of these eggs, we've got an instant spaceship. All we've got to do is just put the mechanics in it. Oh, bonus, all that good stuff inside? I don't know. Maybe it's petroleum fuel. We could burn that shit forever. So, I mean, you can see how the evolution would have progressed. And then next thing you know, 2,000 years later, which is where we're at now, we would be already starting our first intergalactic traveling. We would start making our way out into our galaxy. Because by now we should have evolved enough spiritually to begin to recognize other spirit-filled creatures. So that when we go out into the universe and we meet other creatures, we will understand that even though they talk differently from us, they look differently from us, but oh, wait a second, we see the spark of life in them. They are Michael's creation too. So now they become our brothers and sisters. You see how it all goes together? The universe is in cooperation, not in competition. And then they would have helped us take and move this whole galaxy into light and life. Why do you think they're helping us now? Because the universe is in cooperation, not in competition. They want to see the whole thing go into light and life as well. And they're willing to do what it takes to help us get there. Because, well, ask yourself this one question. Well, it's easy enough to cut your hair. How easy is it for you to cut off your finger? Yeah, not so easy, is it? So yeah, that's the position that they're basically in.
Okay. All right. That sounds like a good place to leave it for today. Maybe, yeah. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Peter.
And I'm Crow.
And this has been P&K Q&A for March the 21st. It's allegedly spring.
Allegedly.
And, yeah. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Peace out. Salute.